So my first open question, if I can say that, how do ecosystems work? I mean, in terms of, what are the ingredients of a successful ecosystem? Let's start with you.
So, if you look at the tech ecosystem, so we find there are three players here. Right? One is a big tech, right? People who provide cloud, infrastructure, data centers. Then the second is the marketplaces, right? So these are the players who are actually connecting buyers or sellers of any services, and the third is the startups or the innovators. So typically we have seen in the last 5-10 years all of these evolving, and especially with AI emerging as a front runner. So I see the ecosystems are evolving, but they are still not mature enough where these are still working in synergy, right? So the big tech players, they want to build everything themselves, right? Apart from, so they are competing with smaller startups in niche areas. Marketplaces are also trying to do everything themselves. So I see there is a conflict which is happening, especially with the role of AI and producing any kind of SaaS or any kind of services becoming a very easy task now. So I believe that the ecosystems that we have built and we have seen in the last 5-10 years, they might collapse, and the power of developing anything has gone to a common place. Everyone is doing vibe coding. So we are yet to see how these ecosystems will emerge. That's my view.
Okay, that's a good start, because I nominate like not a controversial view, but a different view. So you said ecosystem may collapse. Let me come to Anand now. Do you prefer, agree?
I kind of agree and disagree, right? He summarized it really well, the three players that he talked about, right? The big tech, marketplaces, and the startups. And I think I have a sort of a different view there, wherein I feel that if there is an alignment in terms of incentives being aligned across all three, I feel all three of them kind of thrive, right? And there are various instances that we have. If I have to talk about, sort of my own journey, my own org's journey, sort of the kind of scale that we have seen, it would not have been possible without this ecosystem, right? We leveraged a lot of big tech during our initial journey. In fact, we continue to kind of leverage that. We obviously were our marketplace. We ensure that, sort of all our users, suppliers, or partners are all democratized. And then obviously we also relied on a lot of startups, right? There is no way we could have built all the cool solutions that we required to scale our business. So we did leverage a lot of startups as well. So I feel that, all these three ecosystems are kind of, if there are right synergies, if there are right incentive alignment, all three of them is kind of thrive rather. Now, where I kind of disagree, where I kind of agree is where you said that some of this will possibly get rewritten and will possibly over a period of time with the AI evolving. Maybe there is a lot of overlap that will happen. Possibly the reliance that we have, the way we rely on big tech, possibly that will come down. So that's my thank you.
Yeah, Mike.
Yeah, I think probably we are going to summarize something similar, which means like we are thinking the right same thought process. I'll also say that while it's challenging for sure because of the reasons mentioned, at least I'll maybe digress and take a couple of examples of what we are seeing and where it's working out well. Right? So as we heard, right, that big tech provides all the foundational platform abstractions which you build, right? And the startups are the innovators who build solutions or ideas on top of that, and marketplaces become your distribution layer. So one of the recent examples that I want to pick from from Cashfree. So we work with card networks, so that's a big tech. We have leveraged some of the core functionalities like MasterCard has passkey-based authentication for card payments, right? So that is a foundational sort of abstraction platform level thing that they built. Right? So that's a big tech thing that has been offered. Now, Cashfree as innovators, we work with Swiggy, again, another startup, I'd say startup, and we innovated to use that to build a solution where you can now make a payment within a ChatGPT app, right? So we leverage something offered by big tech where they have given the platform to build. We came up with this idea of like making payments more seamless, more authentic. Obviously using some of the tools provided by OpenAI and Anthropic. And now where the marketplace comes is like we have an app, but we need a distribution layer, right? So now all the ChatGPT users become the distribution layer. So that is a marketplace. So I think for us, we definitely have seen examples where all these three sort of partners are coming together well. And obviously there will be challenges, but I think like with AI coming in, hopefully we'll be able to bridge that gap a bit more. That's my view.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think if I were to put the ingredients part into one thing, what has worked for us as well as did not like fail with our partners, right, has been the right problem scoping. I mean, with the big tech on one side and maybe another startup offering on other side, I think the right problem scoping becomes a very, very key thing. Like with one of our things where we were trying to build a voice bot, right from the day one, it was very, very hard to basically come on the same page as in what is the right expectation out of this, right? Both in terms of how is the integration going to happen versus what are the key output metrics which we are going to track. Because the one company is trying to optimize on the consumption while we are trying to optimize on our own metrics, which is basically can we onboard more customers, can we give faster delivery times, right? So I think for me, in the failed as well as in the successful project, the right problem scoping actually played a very, very key role.
I think in a sense all of them have already summarized what works, what doesn't, but I'll try to elaborate a little more on what he just said. Is that, let's say I'm talking from the point of view of a startup, right? You have to have clear ideas in mind on what you need to build yourself, which is your core, and what you need to go up from the marketplace and use big tech, and how. I mean, if you want to leverage multiple big tech entities or multiple marketplace entities, you need to have an idea of how you want them to work together. So effectively, you know what you need to build and what you need to go up and how.
That's very simplistic report. Yes. Niladri, any opinion on?
I would like to, since all of the people, they have almost covered entire thing, so there is a very small thing which I would like to say. For any collaboration, whether it is a startup or a big tech or e-commerce, the one thing which matters is everybody has his own expertise. Every company has his own expertise. So it is always better to focus on their expertise and outsource or keep the part which somebody other is good at. So it is always the collaboration that works, and collaboration will always work in future. That is maybe, and it will with the AI, it will going to be more and more collaboration. Yeah, of course the layers might be different because the way we used to have partnerships, the way we used to have collaboration, that will change with the AI and other things coming into picture. More or less, it would change, but up to certain extent, collaboration is a must in the future because no one company can grow until they collaborate with the people who have specific skill set with respect to their own expertise and domain. That's my thought process.
Probably I'll give an example of where the tech industry thrives on collaboration. So you have product players like I'll talk about ERP. or a CRM as example, right? So you have players like SAP, Salesforce, Oracle, right? And then they have implementation partners, right? If you go to SAP directly, they said that, okay, we can do this, but it will be too costly for you, right? Why don't you actually involve one of our implementation partners, right?
Absolutely.
And then there are consulting companies like Deloitte and Accenture of the world, they also jump in, that we will consult, this guy will implement. So all of this works on a collaborative model, working well for tech industry for a few years now. How do you see, like, I just want to know from you, like, how do you see this kind of partnerships evolving in today's era?
Okay, before that, I think it always good to learn from you in terms of give us one example of a good collaboration that's happened and probably you're learning
This
from.
is a good collaboration which has been happening. So I just want to know from the.
Okay, you want to answer? Okay.
Yeah, I can answer.
Yeah, we can go in this fashion. That's not.
Yeah, so sorry. What he talked about. I have an actual experience with that. See, okay, you talked about these big players having their core technologies and their implementation partners coming on board, and then you also work with the finance or the HR whatever team and to get an implementation out done. Now, traditionally, what has happened, right? The people, your organization buys into one of the technologies. Okay, I won't take any specific name. Let's say I buy, and then we get an implementation partner. So you have to actually have a contract with the implementation partner and the core product. Generally, if it's a good implementation, it will take maybe 6 months to a year. If it's a bad, things can drag on for years and nothing get delivered. And this is something I've actually experienced. I'm not. So in today's world, what is happening is you have tools, you have open source technologies, and you have AI that you can get people to build. And if you have a strong team that tests and figures out what works, what does not work, you can kick these guys out. I mean, okay, I should not use the word kick them out, but pretty much SaaS as a model is going to drastically change. It is changing actually. In fact, I know people who work at some of these companies who are telling me that many of their clients have let go, or especially those. So you see only the successful implementation, right? Those are successful collaborators. But a lot of these, especially in big companies, the tech department doesn't know how to directly engage with the SAP or any of the other companies. So they depend on the finance or the team is actually going to implement, and nothing works out. After some time, it's going to be curtains for them. And I think we are seeing all the SaaS implementation of this sort going down in the market. If it's not, it's going to happen anytime.
What I wanted to prompt is, I mean, obviously this can go as a debate also, but what I essentially wanted to understand from you is, give us one example, because all of you have gone through different growth stages, if you can say, and have faced different challenges and a lot of learnings, probably which is beyond the confines of the discussion timeline we have. Give us one example of a good successful collaboration and your key learning from it. Anybody can say.
Yeah, I can mention that. So I work for a lending company. So for any lending company, right, there are two core parts. You have your loan origination system and your loan management system. So we have built our LOS within ourselves. So for LMS, we partnered with a company called ACS, Orion Flow. So they were in a very similar situation to what we were, let's say, 8-9 years back. So there was a lot of incentive for them to build our needs, and we also had to, so in the sense that they scaled and we scaled at the same time. So if you can figure out a partner like that, that ends up in a win-win situation.
So what was the impact, sir, on this for you and for them?
We have helped them scale and they have helped us scale. So we are going to go IPO soon. So.
Yeah, so one of the successful collaborations I think in the last few years has been one of the big tech, such as I'll name it actually, it is Microsoft. So one of their offerings basically help us to digitize our invoices, right? And it's very important step in the overall procurement as well as the supply chain cycles. Now, this digitized invoice helps us in a lot of downstream things. It used to be a very, very successful collaboration at one point of time, but given that now you have LLMs and much better systems which can basically do the same thing at a much better cost. It has actually become a cost, a cost point of view for us. I mean, we are evaluating if we can bring it down or we can replace it using the same partner, but the same partner giving us a different offering. Because like the invoice digitization is nothing but a basically smart OCR, and now all the LLMs can excel though. So even Microsoft also has a similar offering, but probably at a much lower cost. So that's what we are seeing, that a successful collaboration once is probably not a good choice right now.
So I also believe that startups or organizations like yours, digital natives, are there is to be there is a Maruti ad which says kitna deti hai, for example. I think all of us as Indians or as startups or digital native companies are really looking at the value part much more certainly, which is where, like the example what you said, maybe OCR then was a great proposition. Now probably it just does not add value. So, sorry, sir.
Yeah, I think I already gave an example where being a payments company, we are working with all these car networks, NPCI, right? So I'll maybe take a different example, right? So while this was done to improve the end customer experience, who can now make payments via their favorite AI apps, right? One of our other sort of, I would say, persona is the developers who use Cashfree to integrate and enable payments for their customers, right? So we've also learned a lot in that segment, where the goal is like how can we build on some of the, again, I'll take the same word, the foundational things that have been built by big tech to make it easier for them to, let's say, integrate with us, right? So historically, it used to be, we have been a API based company, right? So historically, we would scan through the API docs, spend 3 months, and people said like to integrate, right? Now, again, over-indexing on the AI part, we have built, let's say, we have heard all about co-pilots and all that stuff. We have built that, which is specifically for Cashfree APIs. We have built plugins that help you, let's say, there is somebody who's starting just a business who doesn't need to actually integrate with APIs, right? So there is one persona who is like tech savvy, where enabling them to integrate faster using all these bots and everything, like Cashfree AI is what we call, who sits in your ID as a developer and like helps you integrate, right? On the other extreme, somebody is sitting out of their home trying to sell, let's say, a homemaker trying to sell cakes, right? So they've also built on top of, let's say, WhatsApp to make sure like they are now able to collect payments faster. So that's another example that has worked out well for us, where we have leveraged some of the technologies provided by these companies like card networks on one side and then companies like Meta to again improve experience for our users. The previous example was our end customers, and this one is for more of our merchants who want to accept payments.
Yeah. So I think firstly, I want to start that, the way, the kind of scale that we have seen here at Meesho, the kind of success that we have seen here, and what we are today is due to multiple collaboration that we have done with our partners. So I don't think so any org could have achieved, any org in any domain could have achieved without any successful partnership. For instance, he's talking about Cashfree, right? There is no way Meesho would have built his own payment aggregator or sort of payment gateway. We had to rely on our partners, right? And now the similar thing on the vendor side also, right? I strongly believe that if there are multiple partners or entities, if they combine together, the kind of value that they create is far more in exponential growth that they will see than being an individual growth that they will see. So I see a lot of value in collaboration. In fact, our business model itself, right? If I have to think about our own as a marketplace, if I have to reflect on the entire business model that we have, there is no way that Meesho as a company would have grown without sort of having collaborating well with, say, the suppliers or users or the creators on our platform or the logistics partners. So they all kind of get together and form an ecosystem, and that is where we are able to deliver value.
Good examples. Yes.
Yeah, so in our industry also, like we have done multiple collaborations, so we have partnered with players players like Unreal Engine to actually develop 3D visualization of real estate. So we use Unreal Engine to develop that product, and then we partnered with developers who can actually build their own applications on top of that, like a gaming applications on this platform. So we built like in Unreal Engine we built the whole Dubai downtown, and then the gamers participated. So there are multiple examples like this. But coming back to the question of collaboration, and where I see again, I'll come back to that. Now, earlier when a lot of these tech companies used to meet us and they were pitching their product to us, the question as CTO or as tech leaders that comes to our mind is, what is good, whether, so there is always a question of build versus buy, right? Let's say any HR tech player comes up, anything in procurement, any security, anything, right? So what we have been seeing like earlier, when the question of build versus buy used to come up, right? And when I used to go back to the internal team, my tech leaders, they used to say कि यार अभी तो बहुत काम है, bandwidth choked है, we can't do it, let's get this off the shelf, right? And then we'll see in future if it scales up, we'll try to build our own. Now what I see, the conversation is changing. Any new tech company pitches to me and I go back to my leaders, they would say, "Yaar, ye to hum bana lenge," right? So I see that is the fundamental shift because of the heavy usage of AI and being able to develop system very fast, right? In quick time and with lesser resources. And that's where the whole issue of this SaaSocalypse comes up. Like, if everyone is going to develop their own thing, right? How does this collaboration going to work? So I see that the conversations within the boardrooms are also changing, where my CEO is also asking me that why do we need to spend so much on, let's say, a particular tech thing, and we have developers, we have so much team, and they have idle time, right? The question of bandwidth is no more there. So why don't you actually build it yourself, and then we get rid of this? So I think those kind of conversations are coming more often than not, and we see as tech leaders, we see this as challenging because, I mean, you cannot replace an existing system just like this. There are many complications which you guys all talked about, right? So I think that is something to ponder on.
Niladri, would
I
respond to that? Yeah.
Sorry, I just want to add one thing. I sort of beg to differ in this, right? The point that you talked about, that should you be building everything, right? You talked about it's a bandwidth hai. If you have that bandwidth, rather you will challenge your team to add value to your core business. Right? We often discuss that, and there is that sort of one excited engineer of the, sitting on the back bench and starts, I will build it. Then we kind of debate it out and say, is this the right thing for us to build? Should we be not adding value to our core business, then building something, and can we really compete with them? Can we really stay up to date in that particular domain? So I kind of differ in that direction.
Exactly.
So much excitement I've seen people.
No, let him respond and then you can
Exactly.
just
Whatever you said is absolutely right. I think one thing what you can probably look at is like collaborating with the startups, because there are so many companies. Gone are those days when, like as you said, that implementation partner, you catch hold of the top 2 implementation partner, your job will be done. At the same time, you should also think that why not give a chance to a new player who is hungry, who is a startup, who have a lot of value addition which they can bring onto the table. But problem with the big tech company is that the standardization, the compliance. When that comes into picture, CTOs have to give a point that why would you go That comes the question. And coming back to your thing, that why not develop everything? See, wheel is already invented. You need not reinvent the wheel once again. Only thing is you might have to innovate or do a little bit of modification with that. So it is always better to give opportunity to a startup who might have come up with something which might fit into your thing absolutely correctly. Only challenge comes into place where it becomes a recurring kind of a licensing model where you need to keep on paying that part. That is the only challenge which comes as an ROI to the management saying, why would we do that if we have such a big tech team, and why not we do it? Why give the licensing cost to another guy again and again, year after year? That is the actual question comes to the management's mind. But that can be overcome if the collaboration happens in such a way that the partnerships, the job is done, the go-to-market reduces substantially if the thing is already there with somebody and you just acquire it. I think that should solve the problem.
Okay, now I'm just prompted by what you just said about AI. How does AI change the game for you, from an engineering perspective, from a culture perspective? Because AI is almost affecting every discipline, from hiring to the way you code. Most of you have spoken about many things here. And there are differing views also. So some people say, okay, AI should not touch my code, for example. A human should be in the loop. I don't want AI to touch my system. Because that's core engineering. How does AI really change the game for you from an opportunity? I don't want to talk about the challenges part because there will be many, I understand. But from a pure opportunity point of view, how does AI change the game for you?
I think what AI is doing is, apart from opening the channels, right, the speed of development has become exponential, right? Anything that we used to think of, like, we used to give timelines. So earlier, those timelines are shrinking. So we are able to do much more than earlier, and also think of doing multiple things that we couldn't do earlier, right? For example, using large data sets or doing a cloud scraping of large data sets and then building something on top of that. So these were the things that we couldn't think of earlier because of the bandwidth and the resources and the timelines. So those things are changing. We are expanding into multiple verticals, so the same tech team is actually able to cater to multiple verticals like home loans, interiors, wealth management, so on and so forth. So I believe that is a critical thing that we have achieved. Of course, on your question of like the behavioral pattern, right? So I see two kinds of people. So there are people who have been coding from, let's say, 2005-10 onwards, right? And then there are people who have started their careers in 2020-21 onwards. And I see a stark difference between the approaches, right? People who have written codes for 10-20 years, right? They are very protective of what they have built. So anything new comes up, so they would come up with a lot of challenges, issues, kisme ye ho jayega, wo jayega. People who are new and who are like native AI, as we call them, the new generation, they are more riskier, more risk taking, and they want to do things quickly and don't get into the compliance stuff and all. So that's a behavioral change that we are seeing.
Very interesting.
Can I add something?
Yeah, please.
Yes. So I have some fundamental perspective differences here. One, okay, the way work doesn't. So one part is, I agree with you, in terms of it's exponentially faster. What gets done in 1 year gets done, let's say, in 2 weeks, 3 weeks. So what this has led to, I mean, it's already led to, is that the feedback loops are much shorter. My end customer, whether it's an internal or external customer, won't have the patience to wait for me to deliver a good product. I have to add value, and I have to add value in double quick time. Because what happened to this end customer? I mean, Indians by nature are jugadu. No, they won't wait for the perfect solution. If I cannot build something, they will build something that for that time gets the work done and they have the tools right now to build it themselves, even if they are not a core technologist. That way, AI has changed things drastically.
Okay, so I'll just add one point. So I'm also seeing like the third category. So people who started coding in 2005, 20 and like 25, 26. And the third category is also like it's also shown like how exponential things are changing. Like 20 folks are at least looking at the code, and 25, 26 is like okay, like probably have not had that much exposure to the fundamentals and all. But having said that, I'm still like optimistic, and I think what has already been said that we also think as enablers. We're not worried about like okay, we're doing things. I think we had a lot of things to do, just that we're now able to do much more with the people we have. So I think we are very optimistic and take this as an enabler, and it has shown for us the kind of things that we have been able to do, compress timelines. Obviously, making sure that systems are reliable enough. I think overall we are seeing.
So what has worked for you? If you can just give one example, so what has worked for you?
I think, for example, we are not like vibe coding, right? So we have like kind of the work that has gone. So Cashfree is like now 10 years old, right? So the work that has happened in the last 10 years, right? The fundamentals that have been built, like you have a good, strong. Again, not own the developer versus testing stuff, but the kind of things that we get built, the guardrails and all that stuff, they are actually now helping us. So it's not like we are just letting agents run and shooting things in the lab. So we are leveraging what we had built and doing it the right way. So that is one thing that we are seeing, and also showing not just internal engineers capability, but also like our customers are also developers. So we're also thinking from that point of view. Again, going back to the example that we gave, so I gave that we are building tools that other engineers can also use to integrate faster with that. That's the second positive thing that, and it's a simple metric, the time it takes to integrate with that. That's a single metric that we can track, and it's helping.
What he mentioned right now, that coders who are, let's say, in 2024, 25, who started recently, they rely a lot more on AI, but they also have not internalized any learning themselves or they don't have any core skills. So a couple of situations happened. In another conference that I went, one of the panelists talked about them deploying something to production that was written by AI and it crashed. And my own experience, somebody in my team was responsible for patching some software, did that, and when that didn't work, and I asked him the question, why is it not working? I said, sir, I don't know, agent never had. So that has happened.
No, one thing that I want to add, right? You talked about, say today the model that we are running is more in the, wherein we have humans there and there is an AI in loop, right? The way I think it will evolve is most of the part, say particularly on the SDLC process, will be done by AI agents, but there will be human in loop which will ensure the agents are doing the right thing. And I'm absolutely aligned with him when he said that what it has enabled for any big tech startups or any of the players, right, particularly on the product tech side, it has enabled us to do 10x experimentation. And that some of it is, we are already seeing. Most of the orgs, right, let's be honest that most of the orgs are constrained on the tech bandwidth. They want to do a lot of things, they want to experiment on a lot of things, but they are not able to because they are always debating where should I put my tech bandwidth on. I think that part is one thing. Few years down the line, we will be only sort of ideas. We will not be sort of experimentation, will not be sort of execution. I strongly feel that with cloud code coming, with kind of getting popular, this is just the V0 of it. Few years down the line, I am pretty confident much of the work that you talked about, whether it is 15-year-old engineer or sort of engineer who just joined, right, who just started coding, most of it will be handled by the agent itself. That's my thought.
I think very excellent points covered by the fellow panelists. So two things I would like to add, both from an input as well as an outcome point of view. From an input point of view, I think one of the decisions to give the engineers access to a lot of these vibe coding tools and various AI tools and routers, right? What it enabled us is even the younger engineers, right, who used to focus a lot on specific modular coding, they are now thinking more from a design point of view. I mean, we could never expect that probably a younger engineer is thinking about system design, right? the AI is enabled, like the time which used to go in a lot of these coding, right, is now going into thinking about how to build a scalable system, how to test out whether the system will work when it ventures out as a final product or not. Right, so that is one thing. And also equally important has been basically creating a culture in terms of educating as well as a peer sharing of things among the engineers that okay, this is what it is working well for one person but not working well for another person, so on and so on. So that is an input perspective. From an outcome point of view, I think we have tested a lot of harsh waters, which I would call, right. Earlier, we were very reluctant in picking up things or building up products because it would take a lot of time. I mean, it was hard to build, it required a lot of things at disposal. The timelines were just bad from a business point of view. But now, because of the speed at which we are able to build things, I think we have done some of the things which you could not imagine 1 or 2 years back.
Okay, now let me change the question. About 9 minutes on my panel right now. But very short answers so that we can probably take some questions also. Do you believe as a nation, because of AI, I know there will be differing views from the engineering perspective, from the quality perspective, I agree completely. But some of you have said that it reduces the barriers or, we can imagine or execute at 3x, for example, hypothetically. Now, do you believe as a nation, we'll go from a service to a product kind of thing where we have probably more Meeshos coming in, more spare yards coming in, more Flipkarts or the Mintras kind of thing coming in at a platform level? Do you believe with AI, because a lot of you entrepreneurs, like you said, Anand, you have challenges from a tech perspective, a lot of challenges from a right talent to right. With AI, do you think that some of the barriers, I'm not saying every barrier, some of the barriers can get reduced and we, as a nation, can we go bigger as platform creators? If I can start with Anand first.
Yes, I strongly believe that, I think I strongly believe that as a nation, India is is in the right position to leverage the entire leverage the entire LLM or the AI flows that we have, right? So one thing that I think that will change the dynamics will be if we have our in-house LLM, which is Sarvam, right? Which I strongly feel that over a period of time, right, this particular model will evolve to incomparable with some of the greatest models that we have today, which I think will be which will be the tipping point for some of the things that you talked about. Now, the other thing which as a government we are doing is we are investing a lot in data centers. Now, if you have to talk about the various layers that we have, one is the data center infrastructures. Before that, maybe the whole thing that we talk about, the chip industry, right, the manufacturing thing. That I feel has some time for India to catch up. But the data centers, the LLM models, and the application that we build, India will possibly be the market leader in 4 out of 5 layers here.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Yes, Shrikant. So, I think the time where we were a software powerhouse because of the cost arbitrage or the labor arbitrage, those times are gone. But what it has given us is that it has actually produced a talent in large numbers. So if you look at the number of engineering colleges, the number of computer engineers that are graduating, the in-house talent that we have within the current tech companies. So the problems, and with the advent of AI, the problems that would be solved are not global companies' problem. Let's say a bank sitting in US wants to outsource some IT stuff to India. I think these guys will solve the Indian problems, as you said, with large language models like Sarvam and the infrastructure and the data center layers coming up. So we have the talent base. We have people who have done coding for last 10-20 years, and we have a huge pool here. So these guys would develop applications built for India, and I want to see that the day that we become a product nation, then a service nation based just on cost arbitrage.
Your mind?
Again, based on people I meet and all, right? So it was already happening. I think it is growing much faster rate. And which is right infrastructure to build on. I'll just add one data point that we see as a payment provider, right? So we are seeing, let's say, a single person, two-person startup, or even an individual building a SaaS selling to global countries, and we being the cross-border payments partner, we are already seeing that. If I look into like my numbers, right, like already seeing people who are coming to Cashfree to start implementing selling to, I don't know, like a lot of countries. So yeah, that is already happening, and it will just accelerate a bit faster now.
Yeah, nice to hear that.
Yeah, I think one of the points was raised about Sargon. I'm also, I think after the AI summit, a lot of this odd discussions started coming right around building SLMs and edge LLMs, right? I think I'm actually looking forward to those because that would also ensure that the cost of inference for marketplaces or startups, right, reduces significantly. And these SLMs, I think, can be fine-tuned or they can be specialized to do specific tasks, which is a major requirement for a lot of things which we are doing today. So yeah, I think that is one of my looking forward to moment coming out of India probably the next 1 year or so.
I think that's also an opportunity for, like what you said, edge-based SLMs or LLMs. You know, that's a big opportunity for startups also to offer it as a service or as a platform, right?
Yeah, personally, I actually don't have an opinion on India specific, how things are going to change. And I personally, I don't think I'm very good at predicting. But I do believe that AI in general has resulted in leveling of the marketplace across, not just technologists, everybody can do it. And not just India, I think across the world, if somebody knows how to use AI, they've got leverage. And next 6 months, 1 year, we'll probably going to see a lot of changes.
So, but I think the biggest difference is the population size that we have and the technology base, like some of you mentioned. You know, I know predictions, even I go wrong with a lot of predictions, and many have earlier also. But purely from, and probably it's also survival, because you know what happens to the lots of engineers if AI at the rate at which it's growing, in terms of, some of you have said that you know it's going to replace a lot of software code, and it's already happening. Now, you know, one of the discussions what I was having was, you know, what happens to the engineering colleges and what happens to the, you know, the curriculum what they design? Should it remain static? Because the way at which AI is going, you know, I mean, this 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 year is a very different game altogether. Yeah, so I know it's a big topic and probably can't be discussed now, but just a food for thought. Yes, sir.
So just to answer the question in a very short way, somebody said no, AI is going to make more millionaires in next 5 years than the past 20 years, how big companies started up. But having said that, not only the AI, but the core topic what we thought maybe we got slightly diverted because everybody is biased with AI stuff going on. So the collaboration mostly with the partnerships and all. So when I started Niladvantage 6 years back, so I was out of Cisco and I thought maybe I'll start something. And the thing which we started was collaborating with more than 50 plus big tech companies. Wherein we identified a gap where whenever there is a requirement or whenever there is something coming up, the people in the big tech companies, they don't stay long, maybe 1 to 5 years, within that they change. So what happens is, to get those technologies, let's suppose there are a couple of licenses or there are a couple of cybersecurity stuffs which that particular big tech company can only offer. But the company, they are not, they don't know whom to approach. So in that situation, system integrators like us, Niladvantage, we help connecting the OEMs, connecting the big tech companies with the startup. And at the same time, we also leverage our startup ecosystem wherein we understand what startup has what products, and we also help in doing POCs all across the big tech companies, where currently there are a lot of POCs are going on with respect to the communication. When it comes to the AI communication, and everybody is talking about agentic AI, chatbot, voice bot and all. Believe me, there are few products which we are doing with a couple of NBFCs and banks and fintech companies where we have already done successful POCs where after seeing the product, they were like literally broke. They said, "Hey, why would we spend so much of time and effort to build the same thing which is already these guys have made? It all matters is just to take it, plug and play." That's it.
So just one follow-up question for you. How does AI change the game for you personally as a company from what you said? Because you're also a, how do I put it, very entrepreneur-driven and,
See, mostly in the system integration space, it matters actually because yes, from the development perspective, yes, AI has changed everything. From every possible angle, AI has changed everything. When the integration comes into place, different players, let's suppose cybersecurity players, they have their own skill set, they have their own products which is already patented. You cannot change it, or you cannot because you cannot change the patent. At the same time, you have to take that, along with that, you might have to integrate multiple other things. So in that scenario, the CTO's role come into play where they actually see all the places, they take bits and pieces from multiple companies and they put it like a jigsaw puzzle and then kind of fix everything. Let's suppose the product is there, the VAPT, the GRC compliance, everything is done, and then the product is going to live. How soon it can be done, it all depends on your skill set. How would you identify those small partners or small ecosystem startups who have built fantastic product? I'm sure if you just open up the mind and think from those top 10 guys like agencies like I don't want to take the names of them, but yes, then definitely once you scale down, once you see, okay fine, these guys have also done it, let's see, let's give a chance, let's see what they have done. It doesn't take much time, but I'm sure if you see that, but what we have been continuously doing partnerships with multiple companies. We have partnerships with companies who do communication as a platform, CPaaS. We have partnerships where the transactional and promotional messages keeps going, the OTPs keeps going from the fintech and without touching their data, without touching it. We only give them the APIs, the dashboarding and everything is done by them. So I do have a lot of names, probably I take it offline, not on the stage.
So unfortunately my time is also up. It's a very vast topic to probably be covered in say 40-45 minutes, but a lot of important takeaways from each one of you in terms of collaboration, how should you approach marketplaces. I can't unfortunately take questions, but if anyone of you has questions for this wonderful gentlemen, I can take it offline, sir. I mean, they can come to you, you can have chai with them, biscuits and snacks. I would encourage you to have discussions because these are the forums where I think, interact with people on a one-on-one basis. So thank you gentlemen for your time. Can I request you to pose for a photograph please?
Once again, ladies and gentlemen, please give it up for our panel discussion. The panelists who joined us on stage, Mr. Vivek Agarwal, Mr. Anand Jain, Mr. Mayank Juneja, Mr. Pranjal Singh.